In this video, I'm going to teach you how to name and price your online courses. In today's world, there's so much attention and energy and focus on building online courses, which is great, but most people do them way too soon. I'll talk about that in the video as well. But if you want to have the automation and the ability to scale your business and all the things that online courses can bring for you, you've got to be able to name them right. Otherwise, they're not going to get anybody's attention. You have to be able to price them right. Otherwise, nobody's going to buy them.
Let's talk some strategy. We did a mastermind earlier today with a group of folks and just, opened it up to whoever has any questions. And it's a lot of fun just fielding those questions, and people are asking about how to do certain things. And what I find with the strategy stuff, first of all, this channel is a lot about inner game. I think everybody that watches this channel watches a lot of the videos to talk about or get into the conversation and hear us talk about getting over your fears and getting over imposter syndrome and all that kind of stuff, which is great. And strategy is important too. And so I would say most of the people that come to our masterminds probably lean into the inner game stuff, the what am I missing, or what do I need to get over, or what have you. But we had a couple sessions today that was much more about strategy. And I found myself really lighting up, maybe because I hadn't talked about that in a while, or whatever the case is. But people need to be lit up with their content. I think in today's world and going forward, people need to be content machines because the market is demanding it. The market wants content. We search for something on Google and we click on a video or an article or whatever to read content first to consume. And so we need to be content machines. And a lot of coaches are focused on and purchasing programs around, and a lot of the online marketing conversations are about online courses. So I want to get into that conversation with this video and talk about how to name your online courses and how to price your online courses. And I mentioned that people need to be lit up about it, because if you're not lit up about it, people will be able to tell. And if you're trying to sell something that you're not excited about, try to get other people excited about it, try to get other people to be inspired to say yes, to follow you into this, follow you down a path about changing something in their life or learning something really critical, and your energy is less than exciting and repulsive on some level, because you don't have the certainty and you're not lit up and it doesn't feel good. It's not coming from your unique experience and your heart and your body, and all the things aren't aligned. There's just too much competition out there. And a lot of the competitors out there are better sellers than all of us. They're a better seller than me, than you, than just about everybody that wants to be a teacher, that doesn't really identify with being a hardcore salesperson. So you don't want to go into a competition with assassins, like hired assassins of people that know what triggers to push. They got a lot of money. They got a lot of resources. They're using years and years and years of evidence and testing and marketing feedback and tools and all the stuff that's going to give them the needle point moves to convert just a little bit more, to get a little bit more money out of people's wallets, to get a little bit more money or more people to go to a sales page, to get a few more people to buy from that sales page. There's so much that goes into the sales game with salespeople who are solid. And if we try to those of us that are more teachers, more dolphins than sharks, and we just really want to help folks, if we jump into that ring with those competitors, with that amount of money that they have, with that amount of experience that they have, and we're not lit up, how the hell will we sell anything, right? Because our sales pitches aren't going to be hitting all the trigger points, and they're not going to be based on all the studies from infomercials and all the stuff. They're not going to use all the trigger words to make people buy. So what we need to overcome the sales competition is our energy, our alignment, our give a damn, our passion for what it is that we do.
Mhm.
And one of the reasons that a lot of people don't have that when it comes to their courses, which then really makes how you name your course, how you sell your course, how you price your course, how you deliver your course, obsolete. Like, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant if you don't have passion behind it, and you can't get people's attention, and you can't get people's intrigue, and you can't get other people lit up because you're not lit up. Then it doesn't really matter how you do all those other tactical stuff, all the mechanics. Doesn't really matter. And one of the reasons that people don't get lit up with their online courses is because they do it too soon. And I know there's a philosophy out there being taught by a lot of people that really the first thing you should do is get an online course and sell it like me, because I've been, not me, Sean, but the salesperson says, do it like me, because I've been telling people to do online courses for a long, long time. And we've got all this evidence and all that kind of stuff. So a couple things about that. Number one, a lot of those people are selling online courses about selling online courses to people who want to sell online courses. And that's a particular recipe that works for the people that it works for. And it doesn't work for most people, because most people in the coaching industry actually don't get lit up about selling online courses. That's not their product. And so if you follow a recipe built on a product for selling online courses and you're not selling online courses, then the whole thing might not work. And I'm not trying to take anything away from the people that it works for. For any of you that it actually works for, keep doing it. Just click off this video. Well, no, actually stay on the video, because we're going to talk about naming and pricing, and that will still last, or it will still matter to you. But one of the big things that I see is that people are not ready to build online courses because they don't have it in their body. They haven't really helped a bunch of people with their products or services or content and curriculum in order to put it into an online course. I believe an online course is one of the final things you should do when setting up your customer journey and setting up your ecosystem. You helped me realize just a few moments ago when I was looking at these notes, we pulled this concept from the Foundations of Marketing program. Shameless plug. We'll put a card up there and a link in the description. And it's a 20 module program. And this is module 15. And you were like, that's kind of significant that we didn't even get to it until 3/4 of the way in.
Mm-hmm.
And most people are trying to start with the online course. And it sounds super sexy. If you can just get an online course and put it in an assembly line and turn the key and get people to know about it and take them to a sales page and spend this amount of money on Facebook ads or Google ads, and just make sure that your course is priced at a higher amount so that the people that buy it you bring in more money from the people that buy it than you put it out, the money that you put out for the sales and all that kind of stuff. And it is a formula, and it sounds really cool, and it sounds really sexy, and it sounds really simple. And it absolutely can be really simple when you're ready for it. And most people are not ready for it. I know a lot of people who started with online courses and crushed their confidence or self-esteem or wasted a lot of money because the system was right, timing was wrong.
Wow.
And that's what a lot of people are doing. I know we've been talking about this recently, that a lot of people are doing the right things in the wrong order, or they're doing the right things at the wrong time. They're hiring the right coaches at the wrong time, or they're hiring the right programs at the wrong time, or they're getting the right skills at the wrong time. So I think most people are misinterpreting the trajectory of building a business and how they fit into the creation of a business and the timeline of that. And the confusion around the timeline of your individual journey will cause you to be more susceptible to buying things that sound good and probably will help you at some point, just not at this point, not right now, because we're just putting the cart before the horse. And we are more susceptible to the things that sound simple and sexy, and the things that are easy, and the things that everybody's doing. And come on and join the crowd. All of us are selling online courses, and all of us are making all kinds of money and flying around in private jets. And I'm about to buy my island. And first of all, the majority of people, it doesn't work for. And some of those testimonials are actually fake and false, like full blown lies. But for the people that it does work for, great. It's just a small percentage. So that's like the foundation of all of this stuff, right? Like as soon as I say, let's do some strategy, I launch into 15 minutes of inner game. I can't not, I guess. Maybe that's just what happens. So I do want to get to strategy. I want to get to naming and pricing your programs. But what do you want to say about all that?
I love you in this. This is one of my favorite. I messaged you during the mastermind to tell you that this is, I think, an area of your brilliance. So I'm excited to dive in. And the two things do go together. That's been my experience 100% as a coach, as the human. And I've seen it so many times where it's been a disappointment for coaches who launched into things too soon, and a disappointment for this coach who followed what somebody else said that I should be doing, what I should be pricing, how I should be creating my online course that I sold 0 spots into. So I'm thrilled that we're having this conversation.
Well, complete that story, because the story has a really great punchline about your resistance to the online course. Like, why did you make an online course, and ultimately what did you realize?
Yeah, I made an online course because everybody else was doing it. Isn't that why everybody makes online courses? Because I heard that it's just what you're supposed to do. And because in part, it was what you were teaching. And this was a really powerful realization for me too, is that just because somebody even, and I mean, so much of my success is because I followed the guidance of what you were teaching. And I'm like, okay, this is the thing. And I look to my left and my coach friend over here is doing it. And I look to my right and this person over here is doing it, an online course. And yeah, you can be at the beach and automated money and you don't have to work and all that stuff. And I was really struggling. I had a lot of personal resistance to it. I talked to other people who were more focused in marketing, who told me how to price it, how to structure it. My offers, the passion you were talking about earlier, Sean, was totally not there. It was super awkward, to the point that anybody that actually heard me like speak about the pitch was like, you got to work on that. Even it was from Amanda, from my partner, who's not, this is not even her industry, but she was like, I wouldn't buy what you were selling just for some feedback, because none of that energy was there. And then I ended up doing what we teach and what I so passionately believe in, is I ended up doing some seeker interviews. And one of the questions that I asked inside of the interview, we can certainly put, a card and put a link in the description for you to access this free, really powerful training. One of the questions in there is, what have you tried before that hasn't worked for you? And my first interview was like, online courses. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then my second interview said online courses. And I was like, that's not the first time I've heard that today. And then the third, and then the fourth. And Sean, when the fifth person said online courses, I started laughing. Like, I started laughing during my conversation. I was like, I got to apologize to you. I'm laughing because here I am. And I was beating myself up, feeling like a loser, like a not successful coach, like I wasn't doing the thing that everybody else was supposed to be doing. I'm never going to make it. I don't have an online course. I can't get it together. And yet my seeker hates online courses.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And it, bless our hearts, right? We do the things that we think we're supposed to do, and you were doing things that other people were doing, but one person in particular too, that you were comparing yourself to, which is easy for us to do. We just play follow the leader. And that the punchline here, the final realization is what it's all about. You're serving a single person. And I remember you were really frustrated because you didn't know what to price it, and you hadn't sold any of them, like you said, and you were just really bummed out about you're not doing it right, and what do I need to learn, and all this stuff. And it's like the person you're serving doesn't like these things anyway. And that's why online courses should be one of, in my experience and my philosophy, one of the last things that we do when we create our customer journeys. That doesn't mean you have to wait 3 years, but you have to have enough knowledge, experience, testimonials to create something that's worthy of delivering online. And what I've learned is if you start with online and the first time you've taught this information with another human consuming it is online, it probably won't be that good because it's theoretical in that moment. Like you can't be on an online course and say, when I teach this to my students or my clients, this is one of the biggest areas that they struggle with, or this is how we usually get around this, or don't worry about it. This takes a while because a lot of people struggle with this, but just hang tight because eventually you're going to get the clarity and blah, blah. You can't say that because you don't have any clients. You don't have the certainty. Now, there might be some people whose thing that they want to do is just teach online courses, and that's great. That's not most people. So most people are trying to fit themselves into a box that is frustrating them. So if you're still with us here and you're listening to the soapbox and you've been frustrated about not being able to create, not being able to price, not being able to deliver, not being able to sell your online programs, then this could be one of the big reasons why you're just out of order and you got to get back in order. And my experience also is when this is the right next step, it's easy because then it's just collecting information. It's not like, what should I teach after I do this step? It's no, what do I teach after I do this step? With the experience that I have, what do I usually do next? Rather than what do I think, or what do they want to learn next? Or what will people buy? Like all that theoretical stuff on top of uncertainty is a recipe for disaster. So let's say you're beyond that point where, you know, the point of confusion or overwhelm or what have you, and it is the right next step for you. Let's talk about what you want to look at, what you want to think about, what you want to pay attention to when it comes to naming your programs and pricing your programs. And those are related because how you name your program could determine how you price your program or if you can price your program higher. And so the first, I would say this is a core element of sales in general, is that people don't buy processes, people don't buy tools, people don't buy ladders, people don't buy instruments, people don't buy surgeries, people buy outcomes. Nobody's excited to get a surgery. They're excited to get off of the table. And then what could that surgery lead to? Nobody's excited about knowing what kind of plane they're flying in. They're excited about what they're going to get when they land in that plane. And there are certain things that are relevant, but only relevant in comparison to the outcome. And what we tend to do as coaches, especially those of us that are teachers, is we try to sell the tools that we're teaching because we're excited about the tools. We've studied the tools. We've learned enough about the tools to be able to use the tools, to be able to put together a program. And then we think, let's sell these tools that we've been spending all of this time studying.
Right.
And then we forget nobody's interested in tools and you didn't buy any tools either. Like when you were typing in whatever it is that you were typing in, or you were asking people for referrals or asking people what they know about a certain thing, you probably weren't typing in tools either. You were typing in how-to questions that are leading to some kind of outcome. How do I get more confidence? How do I remove fear? How do I find my soulmate? How do I make money? How do I lose weight? Those are the outcomes. And I would say the more brilliant a teacher is, and the more somebody studies the required tools to be a good teacher, the more likely they are to try to sell their tools.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be exciting. The tools appeal to the intellect because the tools answer the question, how will I cross this bridge, right? So essentially we're selling the bridge. The intellect wants to know about the bridge. The intellect wants to know that the bridge is safe. The intellect wants to know that the bridge has been fully built. from where they are to where they're going to go. The intellect wants to know that a bunch of people have been over that bridge. The intellect wants to know exactly what it's going to look like on the other side of the bridge, looking back across the bridge. The intellect is coming from this place of security. The intellect doesn't want to waste money. The intellect doesn't want to take risks, none of that stuff. So the intellect actually is interested in the tools, and the intellect doesn't cut checks. The intellect justifies our purchases. So the intellect might be some version of the final approval, but the intellect is not the element that desires the outcome. That's the heart. That's the soul. That's the intuition. That's the little child inside that wants to feel freedom and wants to feel like a winner. It's not the intellect that you should want to engage anyway in the whole sales process. It will be engaged at certain points, but too many people sell intellectually to the intellect of the buyer. Now, I would say a lot of people sell intellectually because they're afraid of the passion. They don't have the passion, they don't have the certainty. And so the intellect is actually a really good protective layer to protect us from going all in and still being rejected. But people don't generally buy intellectually unless you're selling some intellectual product, and coaching generally isn't that. So intellectual sales can work if you're selling maybe computers, or you're selling systems of how to save money or how to flip money in the stock market or something like that. Then you might be able to appeal more so to the intellect. But even still, people are not going to buy stock market programs just so they can flip money. They're going to buy stock market programs for how they feel when they've got all of their financial peace of mind taken care of, and they've got money coming in and cash flow, and so that they can go travel the world if that's what they want to do, or they can just feel good about their family. So even with products like that, there's still this emotion that we need to engage. And so the tools is not the way to engage the emotion. It's the outcome that we need to focus on. And to your point earlier, we don't need to, and we shouldn't focus on the emotion that we got, although I would rather you focus on the emotion that you as the teacher felt when you had the breakthrough. But nothing from your perspective is as important as theirs. So we've got to use the language, we've got to use the perspective, we've got to use the fears, we've got to use everything that we can from the seeker's perspective. So here's the quick answer to the question, what should I name my program? What does your seeker want it to be named? Mm-hmm. That's the answer right there. I guess this video could have been 7 seconds.
Bye.
Yeah, bye. And then the other answer, what should I price it? Whatever they'll pay for it. Yeah, just ask your seeker. So we say all the time, the most valuable asset is the perspective of your seeker. And way too often we see, and I did this too, and I know you did this too, we just see too many people struggling with their own perspective and trying to figure out what the right thing is to name the product. So take a look at everything from those seeker interviews that you talk about, and I think is just so critical, especially for newer coaches, to find out what language the seekers are using and just engage them in this conversation. Also pay attention to what they're buying. What are the books that they buy? What are the other online programs that they buy, assuming your seeker buys online programs? What are the Facebook groups that they're intrigued by and they engage in and so forth? You just want to see what language already works so that you can have a clue about what language you should use to give them this idea of an outcome. And when it comes to an outcome, you got to be clear. You want to be as clear as possible. And the more clear you are, the more intriguing the offer is going to be. And that's actually one of the ways to get the intellectual mind to sign off on the purchase. The intellectual mind loves clarity. And so if you can help people identify what the very clear offer is on the other side of that bridge, what's the clear outcome that they want, the intellectual mind is much more likely to go, okay, let's do that. That makes a lot of sense because it understands clarity. The intellectual mind does not like being confused. Emotional
Mm.
mind, like, wee, let's be happy and let's fly around and let's be free, right? The emotional mind loves that stuff. The intellectual mind does not like purchasing, wee, because that's scary to the intellectual mind, right? So we
Yeah.
want to be as clear as possible, but around the outcomes that the emotional mind wants.
Mm.
So then the clarity is really like the icing on the cake, right? A way to check the box for the intellectual
Yeah.
approval of the purchase and to get engagement. But we got to sell to the emotional desires of what it is that the outcome should be. And then finally, there are four things we didn't really, I didn't name them or I didn't number them. So the first thing is understanding that people buy outcomes, not tools. The second thing is to use your seeker's language. The third thing is that the titles need to be really clear. And then the fourth thing is to get creative with your naming
Mm.
from a marketing and a messaging perspective, but creative, not like creative and this is how I used to be. You don't want to
Yeah,
be
that's what I was
creative
thinking.
and suspicious
Right,
or
ambiguous.
creative and secretive. One of my early mentors was helping me name some programs, and I was putting together speech titles and stuff. And one of my titles was Be a Giraffe in a Field of Mice. And I'll never forget the slap in the face that he gave me. He's like, what the hell does that mean? And I go, oh, dude, it's all about leadership. And if you want to be a good leader, you got to have the boldness to be like a giraffe in a field of mice. And he goes, that's cool. Nobody knows what the hell that means by the title, right? So don't sell giraffes in a field of mice. That's cool if that's a signature story and all that kind of stuff. But to name the outcome of a program something that is secretive or ambiguous, as you said, or just unclear, and really it does create suspicion for some people, that's not going to do them any favors. That's not going to help them know what it is that they want, because here's what I'm positive of: millions and millions of people type in how to be a better leader. Nobody has ever typed in how do I be a giraffe in a field of mice, right? Nobody has typed that in. And we want to enter the conversation that's already going on in their head. That's why we want their language. That's why we want their perspective. So you want to be clever from a marketing standpoint, but also clear and consumable.
Mm,
So there you go. Maybe there's the 3 C's
I like
to naming: clever, clear, consumable. Clever being unique to you. And don't be afraid to have fun and put your personality in it. You know, if you use a certain word, there's one woman, I forget the word that she uses, something like Shazam or kapow or something like that. And like, that's her word. That's not a word that I would necessarily use, and I'm not her seeker, but I like the fact that she uses her quirkiness and her personality. And I see, a bunch of people that have the guts to do that. And then I'd say most people just try to fit in, right? Like do it the safe way, and put the safe titles and so forth. So have the guts. One of the first things that I taught back in 2006, one of the very first curricula, I guess, that I was teaching, one of the first speech titles and frameworks that I had was called, I don't know if I called it 3P motivation or P3 motivation, but the 3 was like to the power of 3. So it was like P cubed, but it was essentially 3 Ps. And it was persistence, I think maybe purpose, and pizzazz. The last one was pizzazz. And that's what I was like getting at, is just put your own stuff in it, put your own pizzazz in it, put your own personality in it, put your own energy into your work, because that's one of the best ways to be distinct out there. So use words and lingo and phraseology and all that stuff that matches you, but also understand how the brain likes to consume
Mm.
information. You know, if you study the best titles on the New York Times bestsellers list
Yeah.
or in movies, right? Look at Netflix and just study the different ways that movies are titled. You study titles of things that people will purchase from a story standpoint or stuff that they want to engage with. And there are some rhythmic patterns.
Yeah.
Like one of them is 3 words, three
Mm.
word titles. When I learned that, I was titling most of my programs with just 3 words, like erase the waste. That's one of the coaching products that we had. One of the very first things that I did with a powerful guided visualization process that helps people clear their emotional blocks and remove limiting beliefs and so forth. Many of you have heard me talk about my piano bench moment. I was delivered that piano bench moment with a coach who did this particular program or this exercise. And the first thing that I created when I wanted to be a coach is my version of that. So I called it Erase the Waste. And it's in a collection of audios called Releasing the Brakes. And I did another collection called Defeating Your Fears. And another collection, well, Emotional Mastery only has 2. I tried to fit it into the 3-word titles. But so many titles have those 3 words, and the middle word is usually the or in or our or something that's almost like a connector word. I don't know what the phrase is in grammar, but it's like defeating your fears, defeating and fears. Those are the 2 messages
Mhm.
that really stand out for people. Not all of my titles are that way. Like the course that we were talking about, Foundations of Marketing for Coaches. It kind of has Foundations Marketing Coaches, but it has 5 words technically. So not every single title is going to check all of these boxes, but you want to just start looking through the lenses, and with your creativity, when you put your time into naming, just think about it. Can I put it into 3 words? And it's also very powerful to be succinct enough
Mhm.
to be able to tell people what you're going to deliver to them in 3 words.
Yeah.
That's incredibly powerful. Sometimes you might need 4, you might need 5, but be as succinct as you possibly can. So that's one of the things that I want you to do. Another thing would be to find, or not find, but use alliteration.
Mm.
Alliteration is when the beginning of a word, generally, I think I looked up the definition. It could also, I might be wrong on this, but I think alliteration can also refer to the back end of a word,
Mm.
like tion. Shun
Right.
is technically, I think, alliteration, but I think we just think that those rhyme. So
Mhm.
we just
Mhm.
think more of those as rhyming. But anyway, alliteration is the repetition of a pattern
Mhm.
in linguistics. So when all of the words start with a certain letter, right? So
Mhm.
like we have these 15 uh, 15 pillars of persuasion. It's 15, right? I thought it was,
Mhm.
yeah, 16 is something else. 15 pillars of persuasion, and all of them start with P,
Mhm.
except one, which is distinction, and that's important because that's the essence of the word, is distinction, to be
Right.
different, right? So all of that was intentional. Every single one was P except the one that was different, and that started with a different letter. We have the 16 components of commitment, and all of them start with the letter C. So
Mhm.
if you can put alliteration into your title, then that can be, it's just a little bit more consumable because the mind likes the rhythmic patterns and it's easier to remember. Rhyming is another way to give the mind something that it likes to listen to. It's easier to remember rhymes if we just, again, in competition, if you've got an outcome, like you're the seeker and you've got an outcome, and that's the title of a course and you're considering it, but you've got another outcome of another course. All things considered, all things being equal, the emotional mind will want to pick the one that is easier to consume,
Right.
like even the title of, or it
Yeah.
makes you smile, or the rhyme, it kind of gives you a little bit more of a free sort of feeling with it, right?
Mhm.
So if you can rhyme your titles, that's great. Another way that the mind likes to consume is with acronyms.
Mm. Mhm.
Fear, false evidence appearing real is one of the acronyms. And so we turned that into a totally different energy of the same acronym: face, embrace, ask, and release. So that's our acronym for fear, or the acronym for fail: finding answers in life. So when
Mhm.
you can create a framework and put and make it easier to consume, then it'll be easier for people to remember. And you want people to remember. You want people to remember you. You want people to remember your titles and all. It just becomes more inviting to
Mhm.
folks. And then the final thing is a word that I just use is framework.
Mhm.
People like to know that there is there's a path. People like to know that there's certainty, right? There's a framework, and people don't need to know all the details of the framework. They just need to know there is a
Mhm.
framework. And you can tell them, like, the first stage of our journey is this, and the second stage is this, and the third stage is this. Then the intellect goes, oh, there's 3 stages and she knows them, so I don't need to know them. I don't need
Right.
to know all the details, but I need to know that person knows what they're talking about, because we want somebody to lead us somewhere, and we don't want to follow people that don't know where they're going, right? You're not going to follow a guide with no flashlight or no map, or never been down this road before, right? Just follow
Whee!
along, right? Follow me. Okay, that's cool. And where are we going,
No.
right? Yeah. Do you have a printout? You got GPS? Like, you need to at least let me know that you do know where we're going. So, is there anything you want to add to that, or anything else that I'm forgetting and we've talked about before?
Something that just really landed with me when I first heard it, and that still sticks with me, is it's the benefit versus the features, right? When you're talking about the outcomes, is just knowing that people, the features are important, the path is important, the framework is important, but it's what we use to justify our emotional buying purchase. So we buy the benefit and then we use the features to have the logical mind say, yes, that was a good idea. And that's across the board. And then the benefit is in the eye of the beholder. So that's
Right.
just another drilling in of what you talked about with the seeker. I love this conversation. So good.
Yeah. And speaking of benefit, that's a great segue into pricing. Right?
Mhm.
The benefit is in the eye of the beholder. The value is in the eye of the beholder.
Yep.
When people think about pricing, and there's all kinds of things we can focus on pricing. For this video, we're talking about online courses. When people think about pricing their online course, they tend to look at the mechanics of it. They tend to look at the time of it. Like, this is a 4-module course. Would somebody pay $1,000 for a 4-module course? Absolutely. They'll pay $10,000 for a 4-module course if the 4 modules will get them somewhere that they value to be more important than the $10,000 that they have on their credit card or in their wallet or in their bank account. So it's all a value exchange. But teachers tend to look at the features, as you said, and the details, and
Mhm.
then ask themselves, from a transactional standpoint, would somebody trade X number of dollars for X number of modules? Or would somebody pay $500 for only 2 hours of content? Would somebody pay $750 for somebody's first online course? Don't try to price the details. What matters is the outcome and the benefits, and not you. Nobody's buying you, right? Unless you're Tony Robbins or Jack Canfield or Lisa Nichols or T. Harv Eker or some, like, widely recognized person, nobody's buying you. They're buying your outcome that you
Mhm.
can provide them. So that's what matters, is what is the value of that outcome for them. And another thing that we've been talking a lot about in our communities is that people are not buying us as the messenger, they're buying our message. They're not
Mhm.
buying us as the coach, they're buying the lessons that we've learned in our lives that will help them do something in their lives. And the reason that's important is because we've got to separate, most of us, we got to separate from pricing ourselves. One of the reasons for that is, I'd say the biggest limiting belief for 90% of the people is, I'm not valuable, right? I'm not good enough. So how are we going to put a price on the thing that we've been telling ourselves is not valuable, and then put a dollar amount on it? And when we do that, a lot of times we're trying to make up for our low self-esteem with a high price, right? So don't try to solve your wounds with other people's purchases, right? Other people's money. And there is a big conversation in the industry that is primarily focused on charging what you're worth. But what you're worth is a dangerous conversation to get into. It's what is that worth to them? What's the benefit worth, and or what are your lessons worth to them? Your online course is a way that you're delivering the lessons to them. But for most of us, we got to keep ourselves out of the equation, because if we put ourselves in the equation, we're just going to shut down, and it causes us to think in ways that just don't support us being bold, but it also is us being removed from the seeker's perspective. Again, the more you can stay in the seeker's perspective, the better from your business. So if you start asking yourself, what is my value worth? They're not asking that. They're not asking what's 2 hours of Michelle's time worth? They're not asking that question. It's, can Michelle help me love myself again? Or can Michelle help me feel fantastic in my body or in my mind or in my spirit? That's what they're asking. So when we take ourselves out of the seeker's perspective, we're in the wrong angle. We're looking at the wrong thing through the wrong lens. And most people do it. And it's natural, right? So if you do this, that's okay. And if you've been struggling getting it off the ground, this might be one of the biggest reasons why you haven't been getting it off the ground. The final thing that's in my mind right now, I'll jump over to you to say whatever you want to say, is the main thing that people are wanting is an answer to what's the right price, right? What's the right price? I have a 4-module course. Should I sell it for $97? Should I sell it for $200? What should the upsell be? What should the tripwire be? What's the thing that I should sell right before they buy my online course and all this stuff? So people are asking mechanical, specific amount-based questions. And here's the answer. What they'll pay for it. That's the answer. And one of the best ways, I know you just laugh because it really truly can be that simple. But people are spending so much time trying to theoretically come up with the right price that people will buy, and just pay attention and ask them when you're on the phone with them. Ask them, if there was a program that could help you find your soulmate, what would you pay for that? What is that worth to you? What are you actually wanting in an online course? And then what's the value of that to you? They will tell you. They'll tell you how to create the program. They'll tell you how to name the program. They'll tell you how to deliver the program. They'll tell you how to price the program. They'll tell you exactly how to sell the program if you pay attention. So when you're on the phone with your seekers, listen to what they're saying. It's incredibly important. And until you're on the phone with your seekers, or when you're not on the phone with your seekers, watch their behaviors. Pay attention to the programs that they do buy, because that will give you a clue about the neighborhood that you should price your program in. And then I would say stick in the neighborhood, and then just go a little bit higher, a little bit lower, for the sake of being different. And for some people, the right idea or the right answer is just go a little bit lower. Get more people in your program. You're relatively new. You want more testimonials. You want more practice. Just go a little bit lower. Make it more of a no-brainer. And then for other people, mostly the people that have a little bit more certainty, just go a little bit higher. You're going to have less people come into your program, but there's going to be more intimacy, and there's maybe going to be a higher level of investment and so forth. So I would land where your seeker usually buys, like what amount your seeker usually pays for a similar product, and then just move a little bit higher or a little bit lower to start. And the key is start. Don't try to find the answer that you're going to use for the rest of your life. Just start, get in motion. And if you try to sell something and it doesn't sell at all, great. Well, then let's make some adjustments, and maybe pricing is one of the things that we adjust. But way too many people are trying to be perfect before they get in motion. And the graveyard is full of those people that never got in motion because they couldn't find the perfect guaranteed price.
Woo! That's what I give that. The statement that your value just is, right? So when we remove our personal value from inside of our program pricing, your value is, your content is valuable. Your lessons are valuable. You are valuable, period. New conversation. What are people going to pay for your program? So those two things are separate. And as soon as we can accept that, as soon as I accepted that, right? Like my value is solid, right? End of sentence. Now let's talk to the people that are going to purchase the program and find out what to price it, and understand that the very same program taught by the very same person in the very same way to two different markets could be priced incredibly differently. And that right there is proof that it's not about the value of the content. It truly, everything is in the hands of your seeker. I promise you, if you talk to them, as Sean said, they'll tell you everything. Mm-hmm.
People want to be heard. People want to be served, and they'll let you know how to serve them. Man. All right. So, that was fun, and it went by really fast, and it tells me that I want to do more of these strategy videos. So if this is landing for you as a viewer and you want more of these strategy videos, then let us know in the comments. And if there's anything particular that you want strategy videos on, let us know so that we can serve our seekers. And if you want any personal attention, then book a call. We do free consultations for people that want help with the inner game or want help with strategy, like we've been talking about here. You can go to coachshansmith.com/book my call. There's a link in the description for you to book that call. And if you want to take a look at our exclusive memberships that we just rolled out recently, you can click on the join button and see if any of the different levels of membership fit for you. It's a way for you to just support the channel a little bit more, but also get more of our specific content and videos tailored to your requests and the things that you really want. And at the highest level, we actually do a lot of personalized attention. We do website audits, and we look at people's Instagram accounts, and we look at sales pages, and we look at specific people's messaging and give suggestions and advice and coaching, and we do deep coaching demos and we dissect it. It's a lot of value for a relatively low investment. So if you want to check out any of that stuff, click on the join button, and we will see you in another strategy video.
All right, if you like this video, check out that video where I give you the 5 steps for creating transformational coaching packages. You have to have a framework, which is a process that you're going to lead your clients through. If you don't have a framework, then you really won't have a starting point to tell them about or an ending point to tell them about.